Hey, Foot Clan, this is a call out to all my bearded brethren out there. I get asked frequently, what do I use for my beard to keep it healthy, keep it shiny, keep it looking good? And I use Grave Before Shave. They got you covered for your beard oils, your beard balms, your beard wash. They have free U.S. shipping, and they're hooking you up right now with 10% off by using the code BALLERS. Go to gravebeforeshave.com and check out what they got.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome to the podcast. All of my enthusiasm is artificial.
Yeah, there's quite
No,
the
that's
story.
not true. That's not true at all. I'm excited about today's show. We have a waiver show, but I have a sad tale to tell.
You have an amazing story to tell.
Sometimes things happen that are both sad and amazing.
I mean, this is like Gulliver's Travels. This will be a classic masterpiece of not literature but of fantasy lore for our league.
In
Yeah.
years to come, we have this question asked all the time over the last few years. Like, what's a terrible trade that you've made? This will be an answer for years to come.
I'm just going to – I teased it on Twitter because this is the nice thing about having a podcast. We're just like you. We're playing in these leagues. Our hearts and our minds are into these leagues. And things happen that really, 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 really stink.
Or are amazing.
Or are amazing if you are on the other end of them. And for me, last night was the single worst fantasy football beat situationally that has ever happened to me and will ever happen most likely unless something happens in a championship game like this.
Sure.
So I'm just going to tell you what happened.
Oh, we're going right into the story?
Sure.
All right.
And by the way, today's a waiver wire show. We've got our full stream ahead. We have a good quick question I'm going to ask you guys, and we're going to get you hooked up, your fantasy team's hooked up with the players you need to pick up, and give you some kind of situational options in terms of, like, would you sign this guy and drop this guy, that type of thing. So, but I'm just going to tell you what happened because it's unbelievable. Yesterday, I was going into the Monday night game, and I had Kyle Rudolph, and my opponent had a guy named Odell Beckham Jr., who you may have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already down 9.5 points in our league of record. And I asked these guys around the office, I said, what are my odds of winning Rudolph versus Odell Beckham Jr.? 1%, 0.5%, right? I mean, this is I look at all the games this year. There's never a situation where Rudolph outscores him by that many points. And I knew Minnesota's defense is great, but come on. I mean, so I thought to myself, how can I win? I need a win. Like, how do I win tonight? What is the feasible, possible, any way that I could possibly win? And you know what? The light bulb. It popped on top of my head, and I said, I know how I can do it. And I'm going to pull off the craziest trade ever. I'm going to trade my opponent for Odell Beckham Jr. before I have to play him. And like a George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg movie, a perfect storm of scenarios came together where I had Wendell Smallwood, right? He was on bye, so I was able to trade him. He had Victor Cruz on his bench, so he could trade Odell Beckham Jr. and take the chance with Cruz. All these circumstances, I went out and I offered him a monster trade. I mean, I sold the farm, so to speak, to get Odell Beckham Jr. I'm like, because if I win tonight and I have Odell Beckham Jr.,
you're back.
I'm back. I'm in a very good situation. You know where this is going. At this point, Odell Beckham Jr. goes out last night, has his worst game of his entire career, lowest yardage total, lost his mind again on the field. Puts up 3.5 points, 3.8 points. Victor Cruz leads the team in receiving, mind you, with only 7 fantasy points, and I lose by 2. And would have won if I had sat pat and just played against Odell Beckham Jr., and I couldn't. It's an income.
You made the trade. A big part of the reason to make the trade was just
for
to
glory,
help secure the victory.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But you actually
to improve
traded
chances, yeah.
for a loss.
I traded the victory away.
Yeah, you traded the victory. You
and
said,
all the
"Here, have the victory."
trickle-down implications are tremendous because I traded away draft picks. Now my team is in a worse shape, and the draft picks are more valuable, and I blew the entire victory by trading away
Well, this
for
is
trading for Odell Beckham Jr. so I could play Victor Cruz.
This is to let the Foot Clan know, look, bad beats happen to everybody,
Oh,
but you're going to come back strong. You always do.
yeah, we'll see. Here's the thing. You can do everything right on paper, and you can still get beat.
Sometimes it happens.
You can still get beat. All right,
You can.
quick question of the day, guys. This wide receiver gobbled up 35% of his team's targets this week and 16 total targets to lead the week, which was one better than Julio Jones. Who is he?
What?
16 targets this week.
Oh.
Julio had 15. And 35% of his team's targets this week. And
Man.
you know what?
Was
I
it
will
Brandon
be
Marshall?
super surprised if you get it wrong. But
If I the only guys who
what was
stand
that
out to-
guess?
I guess Brandon Marshall.
Okay, Mike.
If I'll hedge for us here, I'm going to go with AJ Green.
You are both incorrect. Would you like a second guess?
Do you have a hint? A hinty?
We talked about him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So he was in our
Stud
Stud
Muffins?
Muffins. He will be talked about today. That is
Oh.
your two hints.
Oh, obviously.
Oh,
Senor.
Steven?
Steve Smith.
You're both wrong, Stud.
What? Man, come on.
You led us astray.
Your phrase of like, oh, it's so obvious. I cannot believe you didn't bring up his name, Mr. John Brown.
Oh.
John
for
Brown,
shame.
35% of the Cardinals' targets, 16 targets total. Incredible week for John Brown.
Yes, it was.
And I remember on the Periscope on Sunday, and we talked about him last week, but on the Periscope, I tuned in for a second. I turned it on. Mike was on there with that beard, all polished up with that gray before shave.
Looking wide awake because of the freaking 6 a.m.
And
London
someone said,
game.
hey, do I drop John Brown today and go get this guy? And Mike said, don't do it. He said, hold on. Today's the day that John Brown goes ham, were his exact words. And so I give you credit for that.
Thank you.
And John Brown is definitely, now that he's healthy,
I think he's the two.
he's the one.
One? Well, I still think that Larry him and Larry will flip-flop in production. Michael Floyd will have his time he'll be the highest scoring receiver on the team, but I think we're transferring back to when it was Larry and John Brown were the primary targets.
All right, we're going to get into the news and notes right now, catch you up on injuries and things like that. Before we do it, I want to remind you about our Twitter, @TheFFBallers. If you have a question for the show, you want to get involved with we do a Wednesday mailbag, we do a Thursday Foot Clan mailbag show, go to thefantasyfootballers.com, click the Submit a Question button. You can also find all of our rankings. We will be starting the Week 5 rankings today. Those get up around late in the day on Wednesday. So we try to balance getting them out early with making sure that our first rendition is as accurate as it can be with practice reports. And then we modify those and edit them and check in with them frequently during the week. So you can do all that at thefantasyfootballers.com, and then obviously check out our community at jointhefoot.com if you want that extra episode every single week. We also have a Keep Trade Cut show tomorrow as well. So let's jump into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
How long will I shake my head about what happened last night?
Forever. Well,
All right.
Here's the deal.
Nothing can cheer me up like John Fox, so let's talk about it.
I was going to say a downward spiral, but if you miss the playoffs by one game, you
You both realize that it is 100% your fault this happened.
Oh, we egged it
come
on.
Because yesterday you said,
I didn't say go trade for
you
Beckham.
said, you know what would be better than you winning? Is
Oh,
if
yes.
you lose by the margin difference
yes.
between Cruz. So you willed it into existence.
Take that.
That's the power of your beard, Mike.
Happy to have done it.
I know you were genuinely cheering for me last night,
I
Jason.
was.
Bears coach John Fox said Brian Hoyer could keep the team's starting job regardless of Jay Cutler's health. Now, I think Hoyer, last week we had him as Jason's stream of the week. We all liked him, ranked him high against all odds, right? Brian Hoyer is just finds a way to throw for 300 yards.
As long as it's not the playoffs.
But you have an injured Jeffrey now, and you have an injured Kevin White now. I mean, can you do it all with Zach Miller and Eddie Royal?
Eddie.
I think he'll be perfectly fine this week.
Yeah,
all
I
right,
agree.
all right.
No, he is a fine play. He's got a good matchup. He's going to keep doing it. He doesn't need anything too great because the matchup says it's a winnable matchup.
All right, what's the latest on Trevor Siemian?
Well, it was his non-throwing shoulder. It's still beat up, and Coobs is saying he doesn't know if Siemian will be able to play. I heard him talking, heard some sound bites that he hopes he will be able to. So this isn't a situation where the Broncos are trying to pass the guard immediately to Paxton Lynch. They're going to let Siemian come back and keep his job.
What injury is Ryan Mathews considering for this week?
Spin the wheel.
I'm going to go ahead and say no injury.
Oh!
I'm going out on a limb here. I think the reason he was shut down the week prior to their bye was because they didn't need him in that game, the way that the game flow happened. Their other running backs were doing well. He was still nursing that ankle, and they had the bye week the next week. They shut him down. Remember, they went into that last game saying we're going to really give him the ball. The game before they did, right? He had 22 carries. So now coming out of the bye, I expect him to be the starting running back, to have the workload again. But I do worry as the season goes on about Wendell Smallwood. He's more of their future, whereas Ryan Mathews and his contract, which is very large, probably isn't. So I'm looking for a big week this week. I'm hoping for one, and then I'm looking to move him.
So I have to, for the sake of our listeners, come out and tell you how wrong I think you are.
Okay.
It's very important to me for you to understand that I don't see any scenario where Ryan Mathews, after missing this time and that level of workload and the success that Philadelphia just had with Smallwood and Sproles and a platoon, I don't see there's any way his workload is big this week. I think he would be a terrible play.
I think he'll get 15 carries.
Oh.
Water bet.
that was the water bet without
just easy.
All
easy.
right.
I mean, wetness coming your way. So,
all right.
Ron Rivera says he has no idea about Cam Newton's Week 5 status. He does have an extra day with Monday Night Football. That is a blessing and a curse for fantasy owners because he has an extra day to recover, and you have less options at the quarterback position. So, I would expect Cam Newton to play. He's a strong guy. He finds his way on the field. But if you don't pass the test, you don't pass the test. What are your kind of possibilities as a Cam Newton owner this week with that matchup and the situation on Monday night?
Well, if worse comes to worse, I would just pick up Derek Anderson and play him against the Bucs.
What about, would you rather play Derek Anderson against the Bucs or have Jameis Winston at home against Carolina? Because I would rather have Winston.
It's in Carolina.
Yeah, I would still.
Right? Am I right?
Yes, no, it is in Carolina.
You're right. It is in Carolina.
Both of those are good options, I think. Derek Anderson has shown that he can be productive for fantasy when Cam is out. So he's a good backup plan. Jameis Winston is owned in most leagues. I would say, look, if you are playing against the Cam Newton opponent and Jameis Winston is owned already by a team, I would go pick up Derek Anderson.
Let me give you guys those listening in this situation, because you know, tons of Cam Newton owners. If you grab that quote-unquote quarterback handcuff, whether it's Winston or Derek Anderson, because you have to, right, in the waiver wire situation today and tomorrow. If you do that, bear in mind the fact that if you get good news about Cam, let's say Monday morning, you can still drop that guy and sign a Cameron Brate or somebody else in the game that night so that you can put somebody else on your roster and you're not stuck with a quarterback.
Good strategy.
Zach Ertz's MRI has come back clear. He plans to play. He'll be in the lineup against the Lions. Another weapon for Wentz.
Yep.
Bruce Arians is optimistic about Palmer for Thursday.
Yeah, we'll see.
He is the opposite situation, though, of Cam. If you don't get Carson Palmer back on Thursday, then, well, you know ahead of time, and you've got a lot of other options. You could just bench him and sign somebody else.
That being said, the Cardinals did move up a guy from their practice squad and signed him to their roster at quarterback. That is a very, very telling sign. The optimism can be there, but the coach does not control the concussion protocol. They're being smart in having a backup there, but it says there is a real strong possibility he misses this week. So all the optimism in the world from Arians, it doesn't do it for me. I don't believe that he plays this week. I hope he does. I'm a Carson Palmer owner, and
we are
set
just
to start him.
So opposite today. I think Carson Palmer definitely plays, and I think you have no choice but to bring up a practice squad guy because of the short week.
Yeah, well, you have no choice. But the
next thing you're going to
optimism-
tell me is that Charles Sims is healthy.
Charles Sims' workload will decrease going forward.
Well, it helps because he has a right knee injury. So
we agree.
Did he pop
Charles
up on something?
Yeah, Charles Sims was not at practice today. and is dealing with a right knee injury. Doug Martin is unlikely to play this week, and so I don't know if it's going to be the Jaquiz Rogers show against Carolina in Carolina, but
I think
it's not good.
I think this is a motivational thing. Dirk Cutter also came out and said he's very concerned about Jameis Winston. He said Winston's going to throw less. So if Winston's going to throw less, Charles Sims isn't going to play running back. Basically, the Buccaneers are just going to play defense.
Jason, take this next one.
This next one here, the Baltimore Sun reports.
Well, it's already official, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh, it happened?
Yes.
the Ravens have moved on from Justin Forsett. Now, I don't know why I'm doing the sad music, because late in the year, I believe we flip-flopped on this position. And so I'm really excited about Kenneth Dixon.
You know what you didn't flip-flop on, and the reason you're doing this?
What?
It's because you flip-flopped on his, like, the prognostication of him, but you spent half of your summer telling me how good Justin Forsett is. And that's what you've never retracted. You've never told me.
Okay.
You've never retracted.
Okay, I got it.
and
I got
said
it.
he
So
stinks.
here's
He
the
stinks.
here's the true
That
apology.
is ridiculous.
Here's the true apology. Andy,
How is it ridiculous? He just got
Andy,
released.
I apologize to you for fully convincing you and having you come on board.
I came
then-
on board to the opportunity. I never came on board to the talent.
We really are opposites
This is
today.
Yeah, we are, and
Someone
we're not.
call
It's not
Paul
animus.
Abdul.
It's not animus. This is just friends disagreeing. One person being right, one person being
No,
wrong.
That's bananas.
What's bananas?
He has stunk this year.
Yeah, but I
To
think
say
what,
that Justin Forsett stinks, though, like he's been great his entire career. This year's, but I mean, it's gone.
You could say he stinks. You could say he stunked. You could say he stunks. All of those are true for this year. He was just
This
released
year,
after
yes.
he was just paid. 4 weeks ago, he got paid, re-signed and paid. You have to stink bad to do that.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know what the actual restructuring of the contract was. I'm sure it was very performance based.
Oh, I'm sure. All right. I think that does it for our news. You guys want to talk waivers?
Yep.
Jason, you want to argue waivers?
apparently, I would just say this for people listening. I will say this: please go with my advice.
Put me in, coach.
Not on grammar.
I want a water bet on Carson Palmer. You take that too?
Water bet.
It's such a stupid bet.
That whole play. It is a stupid bet because it's just random because we don't know whether he's going
Well,
to pass.
the nice thing about this is, as Arizona locals, if he plays, I'm happy. Now, if he doesn't play, I'd get something for it.
Cardinals coach Bruce Arians says that Carson Palmer will be cleared in time for Thursday's game against the 49ers.
You're making this up.
I am making that up. He said there's a chance he'll be cleared.
Yeah, there's a chance that he'll be cleared, which means he's not going to be cleared.
Well, wait, why does it mean that he won't be cleared if there's a chance?
When you say that there's a chance something happens, that means the expectation is the opposite of that. So if I say, yeah, there's a chance that she'll say yes when I ask her,
I'll
you're
give
saying that the assumption there is she's probably not going to say yes.
So, like, there's a chance Jason will win these water bets. Is that what you like, that type of a? All right, waiver wire pickups this week. Week number 5, we've got a number of guys to bring to your attention. What I'm going to try to do is give you scenarios and players that you would have to drop and make decisions about for these guys. You guys can start bringing them up with me as well. But let's start with kind of the headliners at the wide receiver position. There are a few guys that are owned in more than 50% of leagues that we still want to bring to your attention because of how well they performed and what we think of them going forward. Steve Smith is the headliner there, 61% owned, but that means, 39% not owned.
Yeah, he absolutely needs to be a 100% owned player. I would also throw John Brown into the mix here because he's also available in about 35% of leagues. Those two guys have a track record of being proven fantasy assets. They're on teams that pass the ball. They're very talented wide receivers, and it's taken a couple weeks for both of them to get back because of their injuries. But now you saw from this last week, they're ready to go. There are very few middle-tier wide receivers I would want on my roster more than a Steve Smith or a John Brown going forward once Carson Palmer gets back.
Steve Smith had 11 targets the last 2 weeks, and you go back last year through the first 6 weeks, he was 8th in average fantasy points per game for the wide receiver position before going down with the Achilles. And everything on the old eyeballs watch of Steve Smith says that he is returning to form.
Steve Smith, Mike Wallace rest of the season.
Smith.
Oh, Smith, not close.
Yeah, I just had to make sure. Michael Thomas takes on San Diego this week. He's owned in 57% of leagues.
New Orleans Mike Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
the only one
that's
you're
the
gonna
only
pick
one
up.
anybody's aware of.
I'm just saying.
Michael Thomas needs to be considered. The big name to me, only 40% owned right now, Quincy Enunwa. Eric Decker is up against it.
Yeah.
With this shoulder injury, he's already come out and said that he's basically not going to be healthy this year. That the only scenario for him outside of surgery is to play through tremendous discomfort at some point. I don't think he'll play this week. I think Enunwa, at Pittsburgh, the way Pittsburgh played at home this past week, a lot of passing opportunities for Enunwa. I think he's a great spot start. You already have your bye week starting this week, right? Seattle, Kansas City. So if you have a Macklin, if you have a Baldwin, I think Enunwa's a guy you can start.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Decker playing so far in the majority of the games this year, Quincy Enunwa he's right behind Amari Cooper right now in fantasy production. Now you take Eric Decker out, and he's definitely a guy that can start and is available in most leagues.
Hey, before we get to the rest of the wide receivers, I want to thank today's sponsor, Grave Before Shave. Look, Grave Before Shave is getting it done for all your beardly needs. They are the one-stop shop. Look, hey, fellas, you got a beard? Is there a fella in your life who has a beard? You got to get Grave Before Shave. They got your beard oils, your beard balms, your beard wash. They got hair pomade. They got mustache wax. They have everything you need.
This is fully Mike Wright beard endorsed?
Fully, 100%. I love it.
You've been using them for a while.
I have. And look, why you can keep using them? Because they're great. And they have 9 different scents. They have 9 different scents to tantalize the senses with their oils and their balms. Christmas is coming up. We got the gifts. The beard oils are a fantastic gift. And look, they got free shipping in the U.S. and all orders ship out the following business day. And they're hooking you up with 10%, like I said at the beginning. If you use the code BALLERS, go to Grave Before Shave. Check it out. I'm telling you, fellas, with the beards, you got to look at Grave Before Shave. They are fantastic.
I use their hair product.
GraveBeforeShave.com?
Yes.
What's it? GraveBeforeShave.com.
Promo
code BALLERS.
Awesome. And we also want to thank another of today's sponsors. You've heard me talk about them before. I'm a proud owner of a Casper mattress, so we thank Casper for supporting this podcast. Look, the Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress, and the thing about that is it comes at a shockingly fair price. Listen to this. You can get, instead of paying, mattresses well over $1,500, my wife and I, we were looking for mattresses like half a year ago. Instead, Casper's cost $500 for a twin-size mattress. $600 for a twin XL, $750 for a full, $850 for a queen, $950 for a king. And this is a comfortable mattress. My wife was complaining about her mattress forever, and now we've got a Casper, and she loves it. Obsessively engineered, combines springy latex with supportive memory foam, creates an award-winning sleep service with just the right sink, the right bounce. Time Magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015, and free shipping and returns. You get a 100-night trial in your home. So if you don't like the way it feels, if you don't trust me, try it for 100 days. If you don't love it, they pick it up. They refund you everything. And this is a made-in-America mattress. So get $50 towards any mattress purchase right now by visiting Casper.com/footballers and using the code footballers. All right.
All right. Let me talk about the wide receiver that I would be picking up if I need a spot start. We kind of talked about him already, but that would be Eddie Royal.
Yeah.
Eddie Royal is available. Okay, he's on your waiver wire right now in the vast majority of leagues.
He's only owned in like 9% of leagues right now.
Right, exactly. So 91% of the leagues, you can have him. He has been great this season so far. He has put up double-digit touchdowns in half-point PPR format, or touchdowns, double-digit fantasy points in 3 out of 4 weeks.
I want double-digit touchdowns.
Now you have, at the very least, you have a hobbled Alshon Jeffrey and a hobbled Kevin White. You might be missing one of those two guys, and they're going up against the Colts. Now, the Colts secondary, I mean, we joke about this on Sundays when we're watching the game this year. How many times have we texted each other like, there's another Colt DB
it's crazy.
down on the ground? Just unbelievable. So I believe, and the nice thing is with the Colts is that they put up a lot of points. Andrew Luck is going to be able to score on the Bears. And so Eddie Royal should be able to get it done. And if you're in any kind of return yardage league, it's just an extra bonus.
The couple names I want to throw out, I've talked about him for a few weeks. Chris Hogan, I think he's a great stash with Tom Brady coming back. We've seen Brandon LaFell be successful in that year, or in that position when he was in New England. And Sammy Coates is on the rise for me. He's looked better. He's getting far more involved. He had 8 targets last week, and he gets to play the Jets, which are a very beatable secondary right now. And Coates is he's going downfield. He a ton of passes over 20-plus yards, and he has surpassed, I think, all the other backup receivers besides Brown. You had Marcus Wheaton got benched for Darius Hayward-Bay, and then Hayward-Bay went out, and of course Wheaton got his touchdown. But Sammy Coates is now the wide receiver 2, kind of officially for the Steelers.
I do want to pause for 1 second to address something. We had a couple of people talk to us yesterday thinking we were making light of the concussion by Cam Newton, as though we were actually, happy that he got hurt. I think we were pretty clear on the show, the fact that, Mike, you came out and said that you weren't happy. And, I said for a fact that I think it was a little bit less showboating. He looked to the left, thought the guy was away, took to the right, then he slowed down. And so we were joking about that. It's not – I don't think – I want to make it clear that we're not saying we're happy he got injured. Jason was making the point, comparing it to UFC, and the fact that when somebody lets their guard down
on purpose to egg on getting hit.
Right. It was the fact that he had to pay a price for that, not necessarily got hurt.
Right. I'm certainly not happy he got hurt. I would love for Cam to be in there. I really am a Cam fan.
Right.
But when you're saying, hey, try to hit me, I hope you get hit.
Well,
That's it.
There's a big difference between, there's a lot of sensitivity around Cam right now because he keeps taking hits in the pocket that aren't getting flagged, and I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not fair.
But in that situation as a runner, slowing up, he should have protected himself. He's accountable to his own decision-making on that play, and the hit was appropriate. He was trying to keep him out of the end zone.
He could have just jogged in, and this wouldn't have been an issue at all.
All right, running back, waiver wire. It's time to talk big names here. Everybody needs a running back. And, you have Chris and Michael on bye this week. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs running backs on bye. Who is the headliner that you want to talk about?
Well, Jordan Howard he's not widely available, but if he is, you need to pick him up. He looks like a legit running back, a legitimate 3-down workhorse running back, and John Fox has said as much. The big headliner this week is Terrance West. The aforementioned Justin Forsett is no longer in town. Buck Allen was the backup and the clear backup to Terrance West. Now, West is not a pass-catching running back, so this was a product of the game flow that he was able to bang out. He had 21 carries for 111 yards, or 113 yards, sorry. And so he's definitely worth picking up. But on the same token is Kenneth Dixon, who, Terrance West has kind of thrown some cold water on the quick emergence of Kenneth Dixon. If Terrance West can play well, Dixon will still eat into his workload. I think he can take over the passing role of Buck Allen quickly. But if West continues to play well, then you're not going to see Dixon just usurp him immediately. Why Dixon, I think, is a great stash is because he could outperform West and play his way into the starting role, unlike a lot of backups where it takes an injury. Dixon can do it himself.
Are you guys dropping Cameron Artis Payne for Terrance West?
Yes.
Yeah, I would. I think Cameron Artis Payne is going to be fine in games where they are ahead and the game script is run the ball. What we saw last week was shockingly that Carolina was way down and they had to throw the ball. That's why Fozzy Whittaker got so involved. I believe he was their leading receiver.
He was.
And he was a running back. So Whittaker should be looked at as well. But for me, if I'm out there on the waiver wire, and I had to make this decision last week, so this shows that I liked him before any news came out of possible injury to Matt Forte, but that's Bilal Powell.
Yeah.
That's a guy I think that really needs to be picked up right now because he has been great on the season. You watch every single snap where he's touched the ball and he's done something special with it. He's a very talented running back. The team really likes him. They paid him, but they brought in Matt Forte, and Matt Forte got 77% of the touches or of the snaps in weeks 1 and 2. In weeks 3 and 4, he had 56%. It's starting to change, and now if there is that rumored injury to Matt Forte, Bilal Powell's the type of guy that I think would take over. He's not going to get 100% of what Matt Forte got in week 1 and 2, but he would be a good fantasy option.
Mm-hmm.
Would you drop T.J. Yeldon for Terrance West?
Yeah, I would.
Even though you have you just talked about Kenneth Dixon, so you're talking about a very temporary situation for,
I'm saying
Terrance West versus a more permanent one for T.J. Yeldon. And for the record, Yeldon looked much better than Ivory this past week.
Yeah,
Yeldon was well over 5 a carry
yes.
and had a bunch of really impressive runs, catches.
See, I didn't see the way I saw the game was the Colts were just letting him run. They didn't let Ivory run. Ivory had a couple good runs, but that's what I saw. We can
what about the
disagree
stats?
on that.
What about the statistics?
Maybe overall Ivory was not as strong of statistically as Ivory or as Yeldon, but I felt like when I was watching Yeldon, he was just getting these wide open lanes from the Colts, which he's not going to get, and he hasn't gotten up until that point. So I'm still not on Team Yeldon.
Well, you don't have to be on Team Yeldon.
I would rather have West
for a couple weeks.
I think when you're talking about guys like that, right, where you're not necessarily going to start either, but you might need to start one on a given week, this would be a good time. I mean, obviously, we haven't brought this up, but we got bye weeks this week. TJ Yeldon is on bye. And so if you needed to drop a TJ Yeldon who's on bye for a Terrance West who can play, I'm absolutely fine with that. As far as who I think is better rest of season, I think rest of season Yeldon's role is more secure because I do think Dixon takes on. But for the next couple of weeks, I would rather have West.
Yeldon's the number 24 ranked running back. There's no chance you drop that. How do you drop the 24th ranked running back?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
All right, let's talk about a couple other guys. Orleans Darkwa scored again last night. We don't know how long Rashad Jennings is going to be out or not involved. To be honest, I was more impressed with Bobby Rainey in that game. Rainey ran hard. He was more elusive.
Bobby Rainey.
Caught a bunch of passes. He only earned himself more playing time, so I'm not super excited about Darkwa.
And we saw the flash from Paul Perkins, their only large play of the game.
Yeah, it's a mess there. I'm not touching any of these New York running backs right now.
All right, and then Wendell Smallwood, we talked about Ryan Mathews. Smallwood last week was 17 for 79 and a touchdown. He's only owned in 9.9% of leagues. You must add him. If you have the opportunity to add Smallwood, some of these rookies and see what they become, DeAndre Washington, I like having those on my bench unless you're desperate, unless you have a bunch of buys and you have to unload these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's move on to tight ends. Who are the tight ends you're looking to pick up this week? There are a lot of guys that are, probably one of these names is available in your league.
Those three guys of Kyle Rudolph, Tyler Eifert, and Jimmy Graham. I mean, these guys are mostly owned, but we just want to throw the names out there just in case they happen to be available.
25% of leagues are available. So that's what I'm saying. One of them might be, in your league.
Let's say all three are available. Who are you going after? Kyle Rudolph, Eifert, or Graham?
Which three?
Rudolph,
Eifert, and
Graham. Let's say they're all available. Who are you grabbing?
Me personally, I'm grabbing Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
Better offense, better circumstances. Rudolph has flashed before, and I know it's 4 weeks and the target numbers are there, so it might not change. But there are still scenarios where that defense is so darn good that he seems to get shut down. Jimmy Graham seems to be like the 1B on the read scale.
Yeah.
So.
This is another one of those practical situations where you have to look and say, I don't want to personally. I don't like rostering 2 tight ends. I very rarely do it unless I was holding on to like an Eifert for injury reasons. Jimmy Graham is on bye this week, so if you're picking him up, you're kind of burning that second roster spot for a tight end. For that reason, I would take Rudolph. But I agree that Graham is probably more assured. I am really impressed with Graham. I can't believe he was able to come back from that. That type of an injury.
So the guys who are more widely available, my target would be Zach Ertz. He was dropped in a good bit of leagues. He's available in almost 40% of ESPN leagues. He had a great week 1. I mean, you saw the instant rapport with Carson Wentz, and moving forward, I think he's the second best option, the second best pass catcher on the team. Behind you have Jordan Mathews and Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz had 7 targets. He was 6 for 58 in week 1. And the biggest news of that story is Carson Wentz looks like a capable quarterback. And if you have a capable quarterback and the number 2 target is your tight end, that's a guy I want on my team.
I'll go with another Zach. I think Zach Miller. We talked about the 2 injured, Kevin White and Alshon Jeffrey, who, by the way, I think they're going to do that thing where you know how you like to tie your legs together and you become one player? Like
a 3-legged race?
Yeah, 3-legged race. I think they're going to do that, become one wide receiver. Zach Miller, another touchdown this past week. And Hoyer has looked to him in the red zone. Not a lot of other options.
No, I think it's good.
I think another guy very much worth picking up. He's only owned in 9% of leagues. He is among the league leaders in red zone targets inside the 20. He's total targets at the tight end, goal line targets, and that's Cameron Brate. Brate has more top 12 fantasy weeks this year than Austin Seferian-Jenkins had last year, and we're in week 4.
Love the targets. I mean, he's looking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
and he
a
looked
good one.
to him against Denver in a tough matchup.
That's a great name. And Hunter Henry has, as long as Antonio Gates is out, Hunter Henry has shown more than capable of, and not just hoping that he gets a touchdown. I mean, you're getting good yardage out of him as well.
What's the latest on Gates? You expect him to play this week?
I don't think so. I can look and see if there's been an update.
All right, streaming defensive options this week. I love the Rams and the Bills and the Rams. Okay, so like I don't know which of those 2 options I would choose. The Bills are going on the road to L.A., so I guess I would take the home option. The Steelers are taking on the Jets, and the Steelers at home looked great last week. Plus, Ryan Fitzpatrick is good for at least two interceptions.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they take one back to the house.
I'm going to continue rolling. I know a lot of people right now who played the Patriots defense this last week. They had to have been very disappointed. I'm going to roll them again. I think that Bill Belichick gets that ship righted. You come back, you've got Cleveland at home. I think that's another great option.
Great option.
All right. You guys ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Full stream ahead.
All right. Let's talk streaming quarterback options.
I'll jump in.
You going
right
back
here.
to the well, Mike?
I absolutely am. I'm going with Brian Hoyer, who is 3.9% owned. Look, Brian Hoyer has started 2 weeks. Brian Hoyer has been a quarterback 1 for 2 weeks. I mean, we saw him last year in Houston, was a more than capable fill-in fantasy quarterback. He got it done with DeAndre Hopkins, and he has weapons.
Say Hopkins must miss him.
Yeah, he probably does. And for Hoyer, I will throw this caveat out. If for some reason you're looking at Alshon and Kevin White are not going, I would probably pull back on Brian Hoyer. But as long as one of those guys is in there with Eddie Royal and Zach Miller and Jordan Howard, who is great in the receiving game, Brian Hoyer I think is a great option again. He is, like I said, as long as it's not the playoffs, Brian Hoyer can perform for you.
All right. Jason, who's your streaming quarterback option?
My streaming quarterback option was Brian Hoyer, and then
he takes on the Colts.
Yes,
by the way,
which is as I mentioned a great matchup here. Unfortunately, he was taken, so then I went to pick another guy, and a little spoiler alert: Andy had picked him. So my third option, if you don't have Mike's or Andy's available, is Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian, look, he obviously
you don't want to just go with quarterback of the Broncos? Do you want to just do that?
I don't know that I would play Paxton
Lynch.
I would.
I would.
Yeah.
I will. We'll see as the practice reports come out, and I will change Trevor Siemian if he's not going to be the starter. I will pick a different guy. For now, I think that because it's an injury in his off shoulder, in his left shoulder, they've said they're going to give him every chance to play. I expect Trevor Siemian to play, and if he does, he's going up against Atlanta. He's at home, and if you don't know what Atlanta has done, because, look, they are a very surprising team. Matt Ryan has been amazing, but they have given up. Here's how many touchdowns they gave up. Week 1, 4. Week 2, 3. Week 3, 3. Week 4, 3. That's freaking nonsense.
13.
That's just that's just through the air. Not rushing touchdowns, not total touchdowns, just passing touchdowns.
13 passing touchdowns
in 4 weeks. So I'm going to take pretty much anybody. If you're an NFL quarterback and you're playing against Atlanta right now, I can stream you. So yeah, I guess that does say Paxton Lynch.
You got there.
Yeah, I got that.
So moments before Jason chose his streaming quarterback this morning, I chose Carson Wentz against Detroit. 23% owned. I know the hype around him is exciting. He's a fun option for people who are Philly fans, that's for sure. But the guy has a great matchup this week. He's going up against the 31st ranked pass defense, a team that has given up 46, 23, 36, and 26 against the quarterbacks they've faced. I think Wentz with Ertz back into the fold, the option he has out of the backfield with Smallwood and Sproles
and Ryan Mathews.
And Ryan Mathews maybe. Look, they're playing well. They're playing very well. So I think Wentz is a guy. Each week we choose streaming quarterback options that are available in your league. So if you are going into this week without a great matchup, these are options for you. I think Wentz fits the mold. I think Siemian fits the mold, and I think Hoyer fits the mold. So
just out of curiosity, Pro Football Focus through 4 weeks, their gradings on quarterbacks. You want to take a guess who the number 1 graded quarterback is?
Oh, gosh, don't tell me.
Okay.
I want to know.
It's Carson Wentz.
What? Wow. Oh, man. And also, Joe Flacco at home is against Washington. It's another decent option, too.
Agreed.
All right. Well, look, if you have a question for tomorrow's show, make sure you go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, submit it over to us. If you have words of encouragement for me after that bad beat last night, please send them over. Cookies, flowers, whatever it takes. That was a tough one.
We need a story time with Andy drop like we have with story time with Jason, because I believe we are about to do another story time with Andy on our YouTube show after the show.
It's been a rough week.
Get your life together.
It's been a rough week.
You need a vacation.
I'm going on vacation. That's very smart. After today's show, we're doing the show after the show on YouTube, and I'm going to tell you my other stupid story. So make sure you tune in on YouTube.
And FantasyJocks.com, thank you so much for sponsoring the studio. They got all your trophy and winter needs at FantasyJocks.com with the promo code Footballers.
They got anything for sad people like me?
They do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.